Alright, what is up, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen? We're here with Kruphix, finally. The deck tech many of you have asked for. There's Teddy, interrupt. Alright, he just saw a little boy walking down the street, so you figured he'd say hi. I'll leave it in there because Teddy's pretty funny and I love him. So it's Kruphix. This is the god of the X spells. It's not a generic Kruphix deck. It's got a theme, which is X. Because, you know, Kruphix, last letter of his name is X, and he kind of works well with big, flashy X spells in general, because you can save your mana up and cast them for a lot. So that's kind of the idea, and then we kind of have to stretch the theme a little bit, like things like Explore, extra turns. If there's a letter X on a card, it's generally included except for just like, you know, the flavor text or something. But here we go. Here's kind of what I am right now with the deck. I've been tweaking it quite a bit. It's kind of like a work in progress. The card, you know, you want to try different cards, switch different cards out. So you can take this any way you'd want to. This isn't like the penultimate best list. Alright, so without further ado, I guess we'll start. I've kind of sectioned the deck onto categories as best as I could. You have the non-basic lands on the left, the basic lands on the right, and we have 38 lands. Not the most amount of lands you could run, but I feel like 38 is pretty good. It's pretty decent. So we have a lot of ramp, which helps. So let's start with the first column, which is all of our ramp spells. We got Mana Crypt. So I must say right now that we had to make little concessions for most of the ramp cards. You couldn't just have things that have X because you would be cutting yourself pretty deeply. But I did put further emphasis on the cards that do have the X theme in mind. So Mana Crypt, Soul Ring, kind of the auto includes into any deck that I've made. Except for the Doran deck, didn't play either of those. Although I think that they should. That deck should play these two cards. Expedition Map. So I've never actually played Expedition Map, and I've been impressed with it. I might put it more in my decks. But you know, the Expedition, the X, there it is. Mind Stone, just another ramp card. And sometimes you do get flooded and you just want to get rid of Mind Stone because you're sitting on all this mana and you have nothing to do with it, so it's nice to be able to cycle it away. Simic Signet, Simic-y. The deck is a Simic deck in a way. Explore. Don't think I play with Explore really. Maybe a Zeus I might have played Explore. But here we go. X. The Exploration. There it is. Farseek, just for the ramp. And Boduca Gardener, a card I never actually played with. But he's kind of cool. If you don't have a lot of lands in your hand, obviously not that great, but you can put lands in at instant speed. So like if you have a Thawing Glaciers, he works really well with this because you return it to your hand on your turn, and then on their turn you can play it again. So he lets you do things like that. You could probably play Maze's End. No, Maze's End wouldn't be good. This is only a 2-color deck, so don't play Maze's End because Maze's End does a similar thing. Cultivate. Kodama's Reach, Search for Tomorrow. The card I've never played with, but we really want to get the mana out quick. We have a lot of five drops, as you'll see. It's not sorted by color mana cost, but we do have a bunch of those. And it's a nice turn 1 play. There's actually only 2 turn 1 plays besides that is Soul Ring and Expedition Map, so you want to have something else to do turn 1 if we can. Because the elves, while they probably would be good in the deck, they don't fit the theme really at all, so I couldn't really put them in. Even Derogatory Speaker, I would have loved to play, but I just couldn't. And Raphaelos, of course, Raphaelos is usually pretty strong. Annex, you know, there it is, the X. It's a ramp card in a way, and it kind of screws your opponent at the same time. Not the best card, but it's got the flavor of the deck. Oracle Moldiah, just helping you get more lands filtering through your deck as quickly as you can. And then Mana Reflection. So with all the, we want to just have a lot of mana pool, and I just put Mana Reflection in. Not really in theme, but kind of had to make a little bit of concession for that. And then Astral Cornucopia. This card just came out when Born of the Gods. I think that's the symbol of that one. And it has a bunch of X's on it. XXX. So how can I not include this? X charge counters, and then you can add a color of mana for each charge counter on it. It's pretty cool. It's not the best card. It's definitely worse than, what's that card called? Oh, why don't I have that card in my Chalice of Everflowing Chalice? 1 second, actually. I'm gonna look into that. Everflowing Chalice. Maybe that should be in here. Told you this deck wasn't quite correct. Does it have an X on it? Oh, it doesn't. It has multi-kicker. Never mind. That's why. Because that was part of the theme of Zendikar was kicker. So Oh, never mind it. Everyone, get out of here. Alright, so that's the ramp. And here's our card draw slot, and it's Astral Vision. It does get exiled when you suspend it, so it does have that as far as tying in with the flavor, but I just really want some early plays card draw. Juicy Apprentice, so when you flip Juicy, it's kind of hard to show. On Tumayo, the Revealer, target player draws X cards, where X is the number of cards in your hand. So you can actually mill people out with this card pretty fast, or you can just draw yourself cards. I actually never got to flip him. The problem with this deck is it either quickly goes over the top, or you kind of get blown out by a swarm of creatures. And I'll talk about the strengths and weaknesses of the deck when we get to the end. This is probably going to be a long video. Sorry about that. Sylvan Library, as Ghost of Oblivion likes to say, he actually donated me this card before it was announced for Vintage Masters. This is Royal's Candy Shop. Kind of like I'm a kid in a candy shop and I just grab everything. It can be pretty problematic if you lose a lot of life. This deck doesn't really have a way to gain life that I know of. I can't think of any. But you're just trying to get things and kill your opponent. I'm not sure it's the best card for the deck, but it's in there. Eternal Witness is another form of card advantage. It doesn't fit the theme. I'm saying that a couple times now, but maybe I should cut this for another X card. I'm considering it, but people really wanted the deck list, so I'm just kind of rushing this video out there. And I don't know, I like her, and plus she's really good with the time warps. People really don't seem to like that, though. Consecrated Sphinx, more card draw. We just need it. The deck doesn't have a ton of card draw in it, despite what you might think it would, but it doesn't. Consecrated Sphinx, he has an X at the end of his name, so you can pretty much put any Sphinx that you wanted to, but Consecrated Sphinx is kind of what you want to be doing. You want to have all the extra mana and then have something to do with it, and he helps you accomplish both of those. And he's a flyer, and he's a way to block other flyers. Prime Speaker, she's pretty much the epitome of what this deck wants to do. You know, she enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control, and you draw cards equal to her power. So she's pretty awesome. I think she's fair as a card in the deck. I don't like her as a commander. I think she doesn't really take a lot of thought. I mean, yeah, you can play big creatures and counterspells and things like that, and ramp, which is kind of what this deck does, but it is not really a blue-green control deck like Prime Speaker tends to be. Plus, when there's nothing else going on, you just cast her for 3 cards and then let her die, and then, I don't know. Just never been a fan. I should actually make a video of cards I'm not a fan of, but as a card in the deck, she's cool, is what I'm trying to say. Stroke of Genius obviously has X, draws X cards, pretty simple. Blue Suns is the more modern version of that, where it gets shuffled back into the library so you can get it again. I've actually drawn off Blue Sun Zenith the turn after I cast it, which is pretty funny. And then Aeon Chronicler, another card I never tried before. And he's been pretty good. I like him. You can just cast him for, 5 mana creature with vanilla, or you can suspend him. And when you've got a bunch of extra mana, nothing else going on, suspending him for like 4 or 5 is not that rare. He's kind of a cool card in general. So, and then I got a Time Twister, the Vintage Masters. This isn't really in the theme, but Vintage Masters came out. I wanted to make sure I got one before if they skyrocket. Who knows? My ticket level isn't that high right now, but Time Twister, just gotta try it out. It's not the best so far because a lot of the spells are expensive in the deck, so Time Twister isn't really the best for expensive spells. But it's Time Twister, and it almost looks like there's an X pattern going on in the card. Look at the card frame. Actually, I don't even know why I'm blowing things up. There's a window right there. And then Mana Drain. One of the counters I have, it has a couple of X's in the text box. X mana, or X is convert mana cost. So it's obviously a very powerful card. And I was able to include it. Plasm Capture. Counter target spell, so it's like the fixed version of Mana Drain. X mana, so you're just adding X colored mana rather than colorless, but it costs green, blue, so it's pretty expensive. And then we have Mystic Genesis. This card's so bad. Put an XX green ooze creature token on the battlefield where X spells converted mana cost. One thing nice about this card is it's pretty good against I've noticed a lot of people playing like Sliver Queen and 5-color Planeswalker control decks lately. I don't know if someone wrote an article about it, but I've been seeing a lot of it. This deck isn't very good against them. This card is pretty good because they cast one of their Planeswalkers and you counter it and you get to attack the other one, so I like that. Then Force of Will, you get to exile a card. That's the tie-in. I kind of just love Force of Will. You're going to be seeing a lot more Force of Will on MTGO thanks to Vintage Masters. It was only a rare, so the price isn't insane like it used to be. And you're going to be seeing a ton of Force of Will, so I'm just getting so excited to get blown out by it more. But it's a very good card, and sometimes you just don't have any blue cards, which kind of sucks. Then Draining Will, another card never cast before this deck. 6 mana, so it's not easy just hold up 6 mana. All the counter spells in the deck besides Mana Drain are pretty expensive, and of course Force of Will. And yeah, you get a big beater to attack them with. So not a card I would put in every deck, but if it's a theme, the deck doesn't have a lot of chances for counter spells. I mean, there are the X counter spells I have down here that I didn't include, but you can always include those. So let's see. This is the removal suite, and the Necessary Evil, Cyclonic Rift. This deck is very, very weak against Swarm. Like any kind of Elf Swarm, Edric, Azuri, Aggro Swarm. This deck is really bad against. There's not a lot of target removal in blue-green, and there's very little of it with the X theme. And this is one of the ways to try and control the board. Not a fan of this card, as you know, but I kind of put it in there as a necessary evil, so it's in there. So, and you know, overloading isn't too insane if you're banking up your mana. So that's kind of the way I was thinking. You know, it's good with Kruphix because you only cost 1 blue, and that's pretty nice. Aether Mutation. Return target creature to its owner's hand. Put X/1/1 green sapperlings onto the battlefield. Where X is that. So it's a nice little token generator. Stacks up well with our, what's his name? Craterhoof Behemoth. You know, you bounce the biggest threat, you Craterhoof Behemoth, everything gets big. Pretty nice things. It's not the best spell. Sometimes you don't even want to bounce their creatures because they have enter the battlefield effects or flash or something, but it's in there for the theme. Then Silklash Spider. One of our ways to remove flyers. This card's actually a pretty good card. I think this card should go in a lot more green decks than it does. It has a huge butt, 7 toughness, so you can block a lot of things. It's only 5 mana, and you can just wreck their board. And you don't have a ton of flying creatures, so this is one of the ways to defend against them. It's just a sweet card. I just love the art on this card a lot. I think it was reprinted recently, but it's pretty awesome. And then Duplicate Exiles. This should be Phyrexian Jester. You could put that instead. Phyrexian Jester is a little more expensive and a little bit bigger generally, but I just didn't have one, and I just figured I'd throw in Duplicate. Like I said, the deck list is not complete, but it does exile something, and it's a way to remove a creature. It's a very important. Brutalizer Exarch. There he is. Pretty awesome way of putting non-creature permanents out of the battlefield. Or searching up a creature just to win the game. Like you can search up Kozilek, or you can search up Craterhoof Behemoth and get them, and just kill them, which is always nice. The funny thing that happened the other day is, I should show the replay if it's available. I was playing against the Red God, what is his name? Purphoros. And the Purphoros cast a Graveyard Shovel, which removes, or puts the bottom card of your graveyard into your library, or to your bottom card of your library into your graveyard. And if it's creature, you get to put a zombie on the battlefield if you like exile or some Graveyard Shovel. We'll just show you Graveyard Shovel. I don't even know if I have one. But I talked his commander, because he wasn't a creature, so I could put him. So if a god is not a creature, this thing will put him on the bottom. I don't have a Graveyard Shovel, so there it is. This card is so bad. Oh, you gain 2 life. I mean, why was this in a Purphoros deck? It must not have been a very good deck. But yeah, he got to put his Purphoros back into his command zone because he had a Graveyard Shovel. That was a cool little anecdote. And then Curse of the Swine, another card never cast before this deck. It's an effect that me and Tarasco both don't like. Shouldn't be in blue, to just wreck everyone's good creatures and give them pigs. It's kind of funny to see the pig tokens, though. These little helmets they're wearing. It's a funny card, not a fun card, but it is the necessary evil of the deck, and it has an X in it, so there it is. Layla. So this is our Tricky Teferi Seedborn Muse suite here. Another thing that's pretty nice is when you're untapping all of your lands and permanents with your general in play, you get to make a lot of mana. Because actually, we didn't even talk about what Kruphix does. Well, we'll talk about that since this kind of ties in with Kruphix. These are just kind of like cards that are so good with Kruphix that we couldn't not include them. So he's a 4/7, not the most power, but a lot of toughness. As long as you need blue-green devotion of 7 to make him a creature, otherwise he just sits there as an enchantment. You have no maximum hand size, which can be relevant. And if unused mana would empty from your mana pool, that mana becomes colorless instead. So your mana becomes colorless, which kind of stinks, but at the same time you get to bank up mana. So that's why I want to have big X spells. And I think I missed a couple cards here. I missed Omnath. So Omnath is like the green version of Kruphix. He has the green mana doesn't empty from your mana pools, phases, and steps end. So he works well with Kruphix because you get to bank up your green, which is relevant for some of the green effects. And then I also skipped over Courser as kind of a ramp mana fixing, getting mana off the top of your library card. And he's a Kruphix. He's his Courser. He's got to be in there. And you get to gain a life. So that's one of the ways to gain life. Alright. Moving on. So Leyline Anticipation, if it's on in your hand during the during your opening hand, you get to put it onto the battlefield, which is really nice because one of the other things this deck is weak to is counterspell heavy decks, like blue control decks, because your spells are kind of 5-6 mana and you're not doing much before then. So they just sit there counter your relevant threats, and then they put down a Planeswalker or they put down their own Consecrated Sphinx, and you're kind of out of luck because you can't really remove their things, and then your relevant threat is gone. So this lets you battle against that. This is kind of a really annoying card to play against if your opponent has it and he's playing like mono blue, and you're just like, ugh, you can never like tap out. Well, you can tap out, but they don't have to tap out because they just do everything on your end step and counter your spells if you don't do anything. Then Teferi, another way to battle blue. He gives all your creatures flash, which is pretty nice, and people can't cast counterspells, remove things instant speed, and it'll sometimes screw people. They'll pass their turn thinking they can like remove him on your turn, but then they can't, and they start tapping mana, and then they're like, oh, can't do anything. So, and then we have got Seedborn Muse, which untaps all permanents you control during each other plays untap step. So this basically lets you have 2 turns if you have one of these flash effects. You basically have to take 2 turns per turn because you have all your mana again, and you get to cast things at instant speed. And then also Prophet. So Prophet is kind of like the mix between Teferi and Seedborn Muse. Everyone hates this card. This card is so broken. I wouldn't be surprised to see it banned, but who knows? I mean, it's a blue-green card, so it's very specific. But I know a lot of people have been complaining about it, and you know, she's the Prophet of Kruphix. She belongs in the deck. She's got an X in her name. Untap all creatures and lands. So you don't untap all permanents, just creatures and lands, and you may cast creature cards as though they had flash. So, you know, you make a ton of mana when you have one of these guys in play, and yeah, this is one of the best cards in the deck. You're usually green suns anything or something for that card. And then we have the extra turns. They're just there to take extra turns. Obviously they're good. They're not always the best, but when you're banking a couple extra mana per turn, they can be more relevant than just an Explorer. A lot of times they're just an Explorer, which kind of stinks, but we don't have a lot of Planeswalkers to really abuse them. But we do have big creatures, which is nice. And then Mana Plasm. Mana Plasm's pretty good with an extra turn card because they come to 6/6 and you cast them, capture or something. So Mana Plasm, the All-Star sometimes. You can do a lot of damage really fast with Mana Plasm. I'm surprised I don't see Mana Plasm all the time. I guess EDH is bombarded with enter the battlefield creatures, so Mana Plasm doesn't really do a whole lot, just a 1/1. And there it is. It gets bigger, and it works very well with Prime Speaker because you draw 7 cards. Chameleon Colossus. Look at that thing. It gets power of X plus X until end of turn, and protection from black is sometimes relevant. It's only 4 mana, it's a 4/4, it's pretty nice. It gets big, and you can just kill people out of, like, you know, people are at 30 life. You have a bunch of extra mana, and they're dead. Hero's Bane's like an updated version of Chameleon Colossus. He gets +1/+1 counters for 4 mana, where it accesses his power, and he's a 4/4 to come down. A little more expensive, but I've had this guy up to 1,000 power, so it just tells you they have a bunch of chump blockers, which kind of sucked. Hydra Broodmaster, look at this thing. I once flashed this thing in at end of turn, and then put out like a million tokens, I think like 10 tokens, and just blew out my opponent. This card's pretty cool. And he's a 7/7 for 6, so he's not too bad. And then Craterhoof. A lot of games end because of Craterhoof, thank God. Sometimes you're just like, how am I ever going to win? And then, oh, Craterhoof. Okay, I guess I win now. He gives your creatures +X until end of turn with X is the number of creatures you control, and they gain trample. And he has haste. He doesn't have trample on his own, though, which is kind of funny. And he's the big bad daddy. I remember this card was 1 ticket during Avacyn and Restoring drafts. 1 ticket or less. Sometimes he was like 80 cents. And now he got a lot more expensive when people started playing mono green in Modern and other things. But yeah, he's pretty sweet. Oh, and then Elves, the Elves deck made him more popular. Primordial Hydra. So I don't have that one Hydra that's from like M10. Hydra, I forgot what it's called. I just don't own one, and I didn't get one, but you should probably put him in there. He's actually not a bad card. Where is he? A lot of the other Hydras don't fit the theme, unfortunately. Protean Hydra, yeah. So yeah, you could put him in there too. He's kind of like the baby version of Primordial Hydra. They do similar things, but not quite the same. He's a little bit cheaper as well. But he doesn't get bigger unless he takes damage, so whatever. You'd have to cut something for him, though. Mistcutter Hydra. This guy's actually really sweet. You just get like a huge 10-10 and kill them. And he has protection from blue, can't be countered, which is one of the weaknesses of the deck. And I've actually really liked him a lot. And then Feral Hydra, not the best card. He's fine. I've had him pretty big before because I was flooded and had no cards to draw, and I made him into like a, I don't know, it was like a 16-16 eventually, but it was playing against Azuri, and Azuri just had a bunch of elf tokens that he kept chumping with I couldn't do anything about. And I lost that game. But there he is. Why does he have so many heads on his... Oh, he's a Hydra. It's hard to see the Hydra-ness. It looks more like a beast, or a cat beast. But he's got these head things. Yeah. Alright, Kozilek. So, when you have a lot of colorless mana, you want something to do with it, and Kozilek helps accomplish that. He doesn't really fit the theme, but he fits the theme that he's good with Kruphix, so there he is. And he's Malware 4, and draws you 4 cards. I didn't notice that these are both 4. That's pretty cool. And he lets you get things back into your graveyard, from your graveyard, which is nice. Alright, here's the big X spells. Genesis Wave. I think most of you know what Genesis Wave does there. You can see it. Puts a lot of permanents on the battlefield with a lot of mana. Green Sun Zenith. Gets you any green creature for X mana and a green. Pretty nice. Chord of Calling. It's like a Green Sun Zenith, but for any creature, and it's more expensive. It's instant, and you can tap your creatures to pay the mana cost. It's a nice card. It's a very good card. And then we have Gelatinous Genesis. Yeah, I haven't gotten a huge Gelatinous Genesis off. I think maybe once. But it's a nice card to have, and hopefully you just don't get wrapped away. Alright, so that's the deck. Let me talk about some of the weaknesses of it. Like I said before, counterspell heavy decks. The Planeswalker decks can be bad if you have a slow start. You kind of need a fast start to keep up with those. I've played some of them, and then one of them cast Destructive Revelry, which is like where you sacrifice 4 lands. And I only had like 3 lands and something. So that, yeah, that's not going to be cool because you don't have a lot of counterspells. You're usually tapping out if you can. You don't have to tap out on your turn once you have Kruphix, because then you can kind of just bank the mana if they don't do anything, but Kruphix doesn't even attack right away. So there are ways to make them better. You could play more of the cheap X spells, like just X and a green, put an XX creature into the play. I'll show you some of those. Kind of like similar to Fire Hydra, but a little bit worse. There's some like Ivy. I don't know, you'll see. So here are the cards that we could have played that we don't, but we could think about trying. Power Sync and then Syncopate. So if you don't know about Syncopate, the way it was named Syncopate was because it is a mixture between Power Sync and Dissipate. So Syncopate. And it actually, I don't know the true definition of Syncopate, to be honest. But it's a mixture of the two, and it like worked out perfectly. I thought that was a pretty cool story about the card. That's not the best art. Syncopate is not the original one. But I don't know, that was a cool little story about it if you didn't know that. That's why it's called what it is. Syncopate. Displace the beats or accents and so that strong beats become weak and vice versa. Oh yeah, yes, syncopation from music. Alright, that makes sense. Alright, so there it is. Mindspring. I should just play Mindspring. I'd have to cut something. I don't know what to cut. I just got this. I didn't own one. And then Broken Ambitions is another version of Syncopate Power Sync where you clash to mill them. Not really what the deck wants to do. It's a pretty awesome picture though. And then Prosperity. I don't like giving my opponents cards, so we're not going to play a Prosperity. This isn't Group Hug. But Mindspring should be in there. Maybe we should just cut Time Twister, honestly. But I like Time Twister, so. Some more X-related spells. We've got Tezzeret, was a -X ability. Yeah, Tezzeret doesn't do anything in this deck. He just gets you like Soul Ring and you can get a Thrain Dynamo, but I'm not going to play him for that reason. Mind Trigger, I want to try Mind Trigger. I might try it because the deck is a little bit heavy on the top end to the mid-range end. That lets you do something. But the problem is there's a lot of graveyard decks, so milling your opponent isn't always the best thing. And you really don't want to mill yourself too much. Collective Restraint, it's only a 2-color deck. Creatures can't attack you unless they pay X for each basic land type you control. I guess it could get better if you could play Urborg. I think you can play Urborg. Okay, so next card, Gilded Drake. I had this in originally. I kind of cut it just because it sort of fixed the theme with exchanging target creature an opponent controls with yours. But nah, I just got rid of it. I mean, it's a powerful card, but no, not for this. Then like things, a lot of cards that exist like this, where you're like X for the number of wizards you control, or Martyr of Frost kind of has a thing like X. I just cut that. I don't want that. I mean, maybe this effect would be good. Kind of really. That's kind of interesting. This might be worth it because it slows your opponents down because they're not sure if they can play their spell or not because they don't really know what you have. I'm gonna try it. But it's not a counterspell deck too much, and this is one of the ways to play a counter. I'd probably play like Syncopate before I played that, though. Because this also requires you to heal them, yeah. So Information Dealer, things like that don't really make the cut. There are some wizards, but I'm not gonna... This card isn't very good to begin with. I'm doing Ataxia. Sia's got a X in his name. You could play him. He kind of also... He kind of works with Kruphix and the no maximum hand size, because you're drawing 7 cards at your end step, so now Kruphix lets you keep them all, and you're likely to be able to cast them if you bank your mana for 1 turn. It's interesting. I just don't want this to get this bribery out of my deck or something, just cause like, I actually haven't had bribery cast much on me when I played this. Interesting. Alright, next, moving on. Lu Jun. I had him in it originally, because I was still acquiring some of the cards. Tarasco, thanks, shout out to him, he let me borrow a bunch of these cards, so just check out his channel if you haven't already. But Lu Jun, Scholar General, look at that guy, he's got an X in his name, and he draws you cards. So. And then I originally had this in the deck, but I didn't realize that this all creatures get -X. And I'm not playing like a combo deck where I can kill them without creatures, so this doesn't really seem like what I want to be doing, and it's really expensive, so we cut this card. After actually playing with it, I realized it's not what I want to do. So then we have Berserk, which gives a creature +X/+O until end of turn. Maybe I should play Berserk. Against opponent's creatures, it's a way just to kill things, and it's X related, and you can just kill people? Thinking about playing that. Carpet of Flowers, I have to tell a funny story. Last night I was playing this deck, and I don't know, I was having a really bad luck last night, and someone played Carpet of Flowers on me for like, I was like, why is someone playing Carpet of Flowers in their deck? Like, you don't know who you're playing against. You can play against Mono Black, and then you're playing Carpet of Flowers. It tilted me so bad. It was so silly. I thought about playing it because you could just randomly get your mono blue and like other blue heavy decks. I think I had like 3 or 4 islands in play out of like 7 lands. And I was just like, wow, that's crazy. Because like it counts Tropical Island and Breeding Pool, which I think are both on the battlefield. It's crazy. And then Feed the Pack. Problem with Feed the Pack is a lot of my creatures, I want them to be around. Like, you know, Teferi, you don't want to be sacking Teferi to get a couple of 2/2s. And Seedborn Muse, so it doesn't really work too well. I didn't really try it, but just when I thought about it more, it didn't really seem to work. And then Kruphix Insight, you know, it's got Kruifix on the name. He's in the picture, but we don't have a lot of enchantments, so it's not very good. And then cards like Miming Slime, I just don't want to rely on other creatures to be in play to get another creature. There's a couple slimes like this that there's another slime card where you put an XX slime and it's X and a green, it's a token. And another thing about tokens is there's a lot of balance in EDH, so I don't really want to rely on token cards like that, so we're not going to play them. So then there's Ivory Tower, you can gain X life. Not really what I want to be doing, it's consideration though. And then Lux Cannon, it has an X in the name, and it works well with the Seedborn Muse Prophet here, because you have to untap it like basically twice per turn. It was pretty good in Derevi, the Lux Cannon, and it worked well with Derevi. I might try this out. I have to think about what I would cut. Maybe Eternal Witness is one I think about cutting. Anyway, and then Steel Hellkite. So Steel Hellkite's another one I should think about playing. The problem with playing all these cards, you have to cut a card. You can't just put a card in your deck, you have to take one out. Let me know what you guys think, what you would cut or consider thinking playing, or that I didn't cut. I like Lux Cannon. It's also a 3-drop. Well, it's 4. Alright, and I'll show you the curve here. Took Mind Spring out, because it's not really in the deck right now. Oh, and let's talk about the Ancient Tomb, Cavern of Souls, nice to have. Sometimes you name your god, sometimes you name wizard or human or something. Depends on what you want to get through. You can kind of hold it in your hand until either they're not tapped out, or if they're tapped out, you can kind of just play whatever, but beware of Force of Will, of course. Command Tower, Reflecting Pool. This card doesn't really impress me. I don't know why it's in here. I should probably cut it and just put it in the forest. Probably. Flooded Strand, Polluted Delta, Woodiffa Hills, and Windswept Heath, all the fetch lands that are pretty good. I don't have the come to play tapped fetch lands, I really don't like them. And Verdant Catacombs as well. And Misty Rainforest, another fetch land, is it? And Scalding Tarn. So all the fetch lands and the colors that we can play. So then we have Breeding Pool, of course, Forest Island, nice card. Hinterland Harbor, obviously, and Temple of Mystery, which has been pretty good. I like it. Works well with, you know, Courser of Kruphix, and if it gets untapped from, like, you know, Steedborn Muse, it's nice as well. Tropical Island, original. Yavimaya Coast, White Border. I think it's the only White Border card. I think Chicken Finger gave me this a long time ago, so that's why I kept it, because Chicken Finger gave it to me. Oh, there's 2 islands over. I think I have too many islands versus. Yeah, I think I have too many. I should have more forests than islands, because the deck is more green heavy. It's a tough deck to play because there are a lot of cards like Plasm Capture, Mystic Genesis. They have very heavy color requirements, you know, Teferi, then like Crater Hoof, Genesis Wave. A lot of the early drops are green, so I should have more green. I think I just don't have enough of these flashy forests. So I was like, oh, I'll just play that many. And arbitrarily, I just had enough islands. That's probably not correct. And then we have Dryad Arbor, which is nice with your fetch lands, and also you have Green Sun Zenith, and Green Sun Zenith during one with Dryad Arbor is pretty nice. And then Alchemist Refuge, which is really nice against counterspell decks, and you can kind of bank your mana if you don't have anything to do, and then flash things in. The goal of the deck is trying to take two turns a turn, basically. It tends to lend itself to that. And Reliquary Tower, sometimes you don't have Kruphix and you have a ton of cards, and Reliquary Tower helps you save them. Strip Mine, no Crucible Worlds this time. I cut it. It wasn't originally, and I cut it because I wanted to try playing without it. So far, I don't feel like I need it. And Thawing Glaciers, so there it is. There's the deck. I've been talking for quite a long time. But yeah, there's a lot more X cards you could play. I should have the Hydra in there. Oh, did I talk about Polychronos? I skipped on him too. Huh. Oh, and then like you could have like Genesis Vassal Hydra. It doesn't have the best effect. It's okay. I don't like that it doesn't get bigger. It just puts its counters on other things. And we're not like a Swarm deck where this effect is pretty good, but yeah, there it is. Yeah, Polychronos. Yeah, so he's pretty sweet. It's a 4-mana 5/5, which is nice on its own. And then you just like wrath away your opponent's creatures if you have enough mana. So far, I've liked him. A lot of times he just eats a Doomblade or Path of Exile or something, but you know those are all fine things. None of the other Hydras really fit the theme. Clockwork aspect of the Hydra, not really what I want to be doing. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. I know I've talked for a long time, so sorry about that. There's some pauses I'll have to edit out. And hope you guys enjoyed the deck. Maybe I'll do a wrap up one eventually. I'm gonna play some more games with Kruphix. Been having fun, but I'm getting a little frustrated because what's happened with the Vintage Masters coming out is that people who normally didn't have access to a lot of the Mana Crypt, Soul Ring, Mana Vault, Mana Drain, Force of Will, all those really, really powerful cards that were pretty expensive, now like a lot of people have them. So I've been kind of getting blown out more because everyone's deck is coming to a more stable power level, I would say, where everyone kind of has similar power level cards, which is good. You know, people should have access to those cards if they couldn't have them before. But from a side where you're playing a deck with restrictions, it gets kind of frustrating because you're getting. I got turn 1 Soul Ringed, I think 3 games in a row, and I got like mana. The other game was like a mana. It was like 4 out of 4 games. I was like, this is just unreal. The bad luck because, you know, sometimes I get lucky and I like flash out all that Soul Ring Mana Crypt business, but sometimes you don't, and then you're just playing a game from way far behind. I really believe that Mana Crypt and Soul Ring should be banned from Commander, but they're not. They're legal. This card and this card should definitely be not allowed in Commander, but they are. I mean, if not for that, then only Green would have access to Ramp with Elves and, you know, Cultivates. So who knows if the format would be better or worse without them. So that's my little rant for the day. Hope you guys like the deck. I like playing it. It's fun to play when it starts to do its little things. People will groan because of the extra turns and the Seaborn, the kind of Prophet of Kruphix deal. But there you have it. See you next time. Thanks for watching.